You wake, if waking is even the word for this gentle rising from one layer of peace into another, in the velvet chair where you drifted away, and the library around you is darker now, the lamps burning even lower than before, their amber glow barely more than embers, and through the soft dimness you can see that same faint pulsing from the dream books on their shelves, those slow, rhythmic glows like the breathing of luminous creatures in the deepest parts of the ocean. You rise from the chair with movements that feel fluid and unhurried, your body loose and warm from rest, and as you stand there in the hushed darkness, you notice something you had not seen before. A door, small and nearly hidden behind a floor-to-ceiling shelf, its wood painted the same green as ivy leaves, so that it seems almost to be part of the wall itself rather than a separate thing, and covering its surface. You see this as you move closer. Are carved vines and leaves so intricate and lifelike that you half expect them to rustle beneath your touch. The handle is a simple loop of iron, cool against your palm when you grasp it, and when you turn and pull, the door opens not into another hallway but onto darkness. No, not darkness but night, actual night. The real night air flowing in through the opening with a coolness that makes you draw a slow, deep breath, pulling that freshness into your lungs where it spreads through your chest like water soaking into dry earth. The transition is startling in its completeness. One moment you are in the muffled, amber-lit cocoon of the library where all sound is softened and absorbed, and the next you are stepping across a threshold into open air, into space, into a coolness that touches your face and hands and flows through your clothing with the gentle insistence of water finding its way downstream. You step through the doorway and onto a path made of smooth stones that gleam faintly in what little light reaches them, and behind you the door closes with a whisper of wood against wood, and suddenly you are standing in what appears to be a courtyard. A secret garden hidden at the very heart of the inn, surrounded on all sides by walls of old stone covered so thickly in ivy that barely any stone shows through. Just hints of grey beneath waves of green and darker green that cascade down from somewhere high above where you cannot quite see in the darkness of the night. The air here is different from the air in the library. Different even from the cool forest air you breathed on your journey to the inn. It is alive with scent, rich and layered and so beautiful that you find yourself simply standing still, breathing slowly in and out, letting your lungs fill again and again with fragrance that seems almost visible, almost substantial enough to see. Night-blooming jasmine, sweet and heady and almost narcotic in its intensity. Each breath bringing wave after wave of that white flower perfume, and underneath it, supporting it, the smell of damp earth, of soil that has been recently watered or touched by evening dew, that loamy, mineral richness that speaks of growth and roots and the patient, invisible work that happens beneath the surface of all gardens. And woven through both of these, something green and fresh, the scent of living leaves and stems, of chlorophyll and sap, of the breathing that plants do in darkness when the sun has gone and they can finally rest. As your eyes adjust to the dimness, and it is dim here, with no moon visible through whatever lies above, no stars yet apparent, just the faint ambient glow that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere. You begin to see that the garden is not entirely dark, that there is light here, but light of a kind you have never witnessed before, light that does not come from any lamp or candle or fire but from the plants themselves, from flowers that glow with their own soft, internal radiance. They are scattered throughout the garden like fallen stars, these luminous blooms, growing from beds and borders and climbing up the ivy-covered walls, and each one pulses, gently, slowly, in perfect rhythm with some unheard music, with shades of blue and violet so pure and clear they seem almost liquid, as though the flowers have somehow captured pieces of twilight sky and are holding them inside their petals, releasing their glow in waves that expand and contract, brighten and soften, in a pattern that takes perhaps 5 or 6 seconds to complete before beginning again. And watching them, you find that your breathing begins to match itself to their rhythm without any conscious effort on your part. Breathe in as the light swells and brightens. Breathe out as it softens and dims, over and over, an endless cycle of luminescence and breath that seems to pull you deeper and deeper into a state of calm so profound it borders on the transcendent. The flowers themselves are shapes you almost recognize, some like bells hanging downward from arching stems, others like stars spread flat against the earth, still others like cups held upward as if waiting to catch rain or moonlight or perhaps just the darkness itself. But they are not quite like any flowers you have seen in the waking world, or if they are, then they have been transformed by this strange light they carry within themselves, made into something more than flowers, something that exists in that space between the natural and the magical where all the most beautiful things in dreams reside. You move along the path, your footsteps making almost no sound on the smooth stones, and the flowers pulse beside you and above you and all around you, their blue and violet light washing over your hands and face in gentle waves. And you notice that where the light touches your skin it seems to sink in slightly, seems to be absorbed rather than reflected, as though you too are becoming luminous, as though you are taking in some of that peaceful radiance and holding it inside yourself. And perhaps you are. Perhaps this is what happens to travelers who spend time in this garden. Perhaps they leave carrying a little of this light with them always, hidden somewhere deep inside where it can glow softly on the darkest nights. And then you hear it. Water, the sound of water moving, but not rushing or splashing, nothing so energetic or abrupt. This is water moving slowly, deliberately, falling from one level to another in a series of small cascades that produce a sound you can only describe as musical, as liquid silver being poured from a very great height into a vessel made of crystal, each drop striking and ringing and singing its own small, pure note before being absorbed into the greater pool below. You follow this sound deeper into the garden, around a bend in the path where more glowing flowers lean in from both sides, their pulsing light creating corridors of blue and violet radiance. And there, in a small clearing at what must be the garden center, you find the fountain. It is made of stone, dark stone, perhaps slate or granite, worn smooth by years of water flowing over its surface, and it rises in tiers, 3 or perhaps 4 levels of shallow basins stacked one atop another, and from the topmost basin water flows in a thin, steady stream, falling to the basin below with that same crystalline chiming you heard before, and from there to the next level, and the next, each fall producing its own note, its own voice, so that the overall effect is like listening to a slow, endlessly repeating chord, a harmony that never quite resolves but never needs to because it is perfect exactly as it is, suspended forever in the moment before resolution, in that sweet tension that is somehow more satisfying than any release could be. The water in the fountain's pool, for the lowest basin is large enough to be called a pool, easily a meter across, does not sit still but moves in slow, lazy circles, stirred by some current you cannot see, and catching in this water are the reflections of the glowing flowers that surround the fountain, so that the surface becomes a mirror of blue and violet light, the colors swirling and mixing and separating in patterns that hypnotize, that draw your eye and hold it and refuse to release it. Because there is always something new to see, always some new combination of light and reflection and shadow. The pulsing of the flowers creating an ever-changing display across the water's dark, moving surface. You kneel beside the fountain. The stones here are covered in soft moss that cushions your knees, that feels cool and slightly damp through the fabric of your clothing, and you reach out with one hand to touch the water, to let your fingers break that luminous surface, and when you do, the water is cool but not cold, exactly the temperature of the night air itself, and it flows over and around your fingers with a sensation that is both wet and somehow dry at the same time. Slick and smooth like oil, but thinner, lighter, more like touching liquid silk or melted moonlight if such things existed. And when you withdraw your hand and watch the droplets fall from your fingertips back into the pool, each one creates a tiny splash, a miniature replica of the larger falls above, and each splash produces its own small chiming sound, a note that hangs in the air for just a moment before being absorbed into the garden's encompassing quietness. It is as you are rising from your kneeling position beside the fountain, your hands still wet with that strange, cool water, that you notice the daybed, though notice is perhaps too active a word for what happens, which is more like a gradual becoming aware, a slow realization that in the deeper shadows beyond the fountain, suspended between two posts or perhaps two trees that are so covered in glowing ivy you cannot tell where wood ends and vine begins, there hangs a bed, and not just any bed, but something that looks as though it was woven from dreams themselves, its frame made of wicker so fine and pale it appears almost white even in the dimness, and covering this frame, piled in soft, abundant layers, are cushions and pillows made of silk that catches and holds the pulsing light from the flowers, so that the entire bed seems to glow faintly, seems to hover in the darkness like a cloud that has somehow descended to earth and decided to remain here, in this garden, waiting for someone exactly like you to discover it. You move toward this daybed with steps that grow slower and slower, not from reluctance but from a kind of reverence, from the sense that you are approaching something sacred, something that has been prepared specifically for this moment, for you, for the culmination of your journey through the mist-veiled forest to the inn with its golden windows, through the warm lobby with its perfect fire, through the library with its dream books and muffled silence, and now finally to this secret garden, where flowers glow and water sings and a bed hangs waiting in the luminous darkness. When you reach the daybed and place your hands upon it, the wicker is smooth and warm beneath your palms, and the silk cushions are so soft they seem to have no substance at all, seem to be made of something finer than fabric, perhaps spun from the same light that fills the flowers, and when you lower yourself onto this bed, moving slowly, carefully, though there is no need for care because the bed receives you with perfect stability, swaying only the slightest amount, just enough to remind you that you are suspended, that you are floating just slightly above the ground. The cushions and pillows arrange themselves around you as though they possess their own gentle intelligence, as though they understand exactly what shape your body needs them to take in order to support you perfectly, completely, in a state of absolute and total comfort. You lie back, your head sinking into a pillow that seems to have been waiting your entire life for this exact angle, this exact pressure, your arms settling naturally at your sides where they are cradled by more silk cushions, your legs extending and finding themselves supported all along their length by that same impossible softness, and the daybed rocks, just barely, just the tiniest movement back and forth, like a boat at anchor on the calmest water imaginable, like a cradle being rocked by the gentlest hand, and this small, rhythmic movement combines with the pulsing of the flowers and the singing of the fountain to create a sensory experience so perfectly calibrated to induce peace that you feel something in your chest loosen and release. Some final knot of tension that you did not even know you had been carrying simply dissolving like sugar in warm water, like salt in the sea, disappearing without trace or memory into the larger peace that surrounds you. And then you look up, and you see the stars. The garden has a ceiling. You can see this now, but it is not made of stone or wood or any solid thing. It is made of glass, of panels of crystal clear glass held together by leading so fine it is almost invisible, and through this glass ceiling you can see the night sky spread above you in all its vast and infinite glory. Stars scattered across the darkness like those luminous flowers are scattered across the garden, each one pulsing with its own light. Or no, perhaps they are not pulsing. Perhaps it is the atmosphere between you and them that causes their light to waver and shift. Or perhaps it is your own breathing, the slight rise and fall of your chest moving your eyes just enough to make the stars seem to breathe as well, to pulse in rhythm with the flowers and the fountain and the gentle rocking of the daybed and your own slow, deepening breath. You lie there watching the stars, and time begins to behave strangely, begins to stretch and slow and finally stop having any meaning at all. Because how can you measure time when every moment is exactly the same as every other moment? When each breath is as perfect as the last and the next, when the only things that exist are the softness beneath you and the coolness above you and the pulsing light all around you and the singing of water and the weight of your body growing lighter and lighter, as though the silk cushions are slowly dissolving, as though the daybed is fading away beneath you, as though you are becoming untethered from the earth entirely and beginning to float, to drift, to rise up through the glass ceiling. Though of course you are not moving at all, you are lying perfectly still on the daybed, but it feels as though you are rising, as though you are drifting upward through the cool night air, past the ivy-covered walls, past the inn itself with all its glowing windows, and its secret rooms and its perfect fires, rising up and up until you are among the stars themselves, floating in that vast darkness that is not dark at all but filled with light, with millions and billions of lights, each one a distant sun pulsing with its own rhythm, its own breath. The stars will slowly above you, or perhaps it is you who are turning, rotating in that gentle, effortless way that things rotate when they are suspended in water or in air or in dreams, and you watch them move across your field of vision in arcs and spirals that are somehow both random and perfectly ordered, and you realize that you are breathing in time with them, that your chest rises and falls in sync with their pulsing, or perhaps they are pulsing in sync with your breathing, or perhaps there is no difference. Perhaps all breathing everywhere in the universe is part of the same breath, the same slow inhalation and exhalation that moves through all things, through stars and flowers and fountains and sleeping travelers in secret gardens. One breath connecting everything, one rhythm underlying all the other rhythms. Your eyelids are growing heavy now. Not in a way that requires effort to keep them open, but in a way that makes opening them seem unnecessary, seem like more work than it could possibly be worth when closing them, letting them drift shut, is so easy, so natural, so exactly what they want to do anyway. And so you let them close, let the darkness behind your lids replace the stars you were watching, though somehow you can still see the stars even with your eyes closed, can still feel them pulsing above you, around you, inside you, their light having been absorbed into your body the way your skin absorbed the light from the glowing flowers, so that now you carry the stars within you, you are full of light, you are luminous, you are glowing from the inside out. The sound of the fountain continues, that liquid silver chiming, and the rustle of leaves. For there is a breeze now, the gentlest possible movement of air through the garden, making the ivy whisper and the glowing flowers nod on their stems. And underneath it all, so soft you are not sure whether you are hearing it or imagining it or remembering it from some distant dream, the sound of your own breathing, slow and deep and regular, each inhalation lasting 4 or 5 or 6 heartbeats, each exhalation just as long, and in the pause between breaths, in that moment of suspension between breathing out and breathing in, you feel yourself hovering, floating, suspended in a state that is neither waking nor sleeping but something that exists in the space between, something peaceful beyond words, beyond thought, beyond anything except the simple fact of being here, now, in this moment that stretches on forever. The daybed rocks gently beneath you, or perhaps you are imagining this too. Perhaps you have already drifted so far from your body that you can no longer tell what is real and what is dream, and the stars pulse above you, or behind your closed eyelids, or inside your mind, and the flowers glow in their rhythm of 5 or 6 seconds, breathing light in and out, and the water sings its slow, eternal song, note after note falling like drops of liquid silver into the dark pool below, and you are weightless now, completely weightless. You are air, you are light, you are the space between stars, you are the pause between one breath and the next. You are floating, drifting, suspended in the garden of midnight blooms where time has stopped and peace has no beginning and no end, where the only thing that exists is this moment, this breath, this soft pulse of blue and violet light, this gentle rocking, this cool air, this warmth within, this letting go, this perfect, absolute, complete and total rest, this falling without falling, this rising without rising, this being without effort, without thought, without anything except the slow fade of awareness into something deeper, something softer, something that has no name but that feels like coming home, like arriving at the end of a journey you did not know you were taking, like closing your eyes after the longest day and finding that behind your lids is not darkness but light, not emptiness but fullness, not ending but continuation, the story not stopping but simply fading, fading into the sound of water and the rustle of leaves and the hum of the night and your own breath, slow and deep and peaceful, so very, very peaceful, fading into silence, into stillness, into the garden's eternal rest.